Okay, second time's the charm. I made a mistake with the first video, so I'm recording it again. Or unorganized branding is a big thing that I see a lot happen in the sphere of marketing, and I wanna focus on it and I wanna continue with it. And I believe it is a big part of marketing and why some brands do incredibly well and why some brands don't do as well. In the theory that you're often taught in marketing classes is a lot of it's based around David Acker's brand identity theory. Speaks a lot about how when you go onto a brand's website or social media pages, it is very important that you have an immediate idea of what this brand is about, what are they trying to convey to you, and what are they trying to tell you in terms of how their marketing is done and how their graphics are done and how the colors they're choosing and even the pricing in some cases that are choosing. But overall, regardless if you're picking David Ackers or you go with Kevin Kellers or Bruns or Schultz, all of them have a similar idea when it comes to what it means to have a brand identity. Don Schultz speaks a lot about all communication should deliver one unified message. So regardless of the wording or how you're doing it, it is very important that regardless of which social media platform that you are on, you know what to expect and you know what to feel when you see a brand's marketing done right. And the brand consistency, which is a big part of why some brands are more trusted than others. Like if a brand is consistent, you know what to expect from them and how they deliver their product, you're more likely to come back to a certain brand compared to one that is all over the place. Where one day they could be advocating one message and the next day they could be advocating another one. One brand that does it incredibly well is like, yeah, it's Apple. Apple are incredibly good at what they're doing and they know what they're doing. They have a very clear brand identity, even just looking at their product line. Not even if you don't consider any of the marketing, just looking at their product line, you see there's a very clear brand identity of minimalism and simplicity, but not in like a cheap manner, but like in a refined manner. And this also then aligns with how the pricing is, where they're priced at a more luxurious price tag compared to some brands where you know what to expect from Apple. So like when you see the price of new products come out, you're not surprised about it because you know what to expect from it. And this also goes into the marketing when you look at their websites and you look at how they're done when it comes to showcasing new products. It is very simplistic. It is very straightforward. It it is done in a tasteful manner, in my opinion. I think that the way they do it is like it's very simplistic, but they're not taking away information. They're doing it simplistic in a stylized way or refined way where they're showing you what you need to see, but they're not showing you what you don't really need. And when it comes to like specifications, whatnot, they do tell you the specifications, but it's not the end all be all. There's a very big part around how the product works, and it's something you see a lot with their keynotes, where like they do speak about like all the new processors, the RAMs, the storage solutions, all these kinds of things, or the camera megapixels. But a lot of it is focused on what it's like to use the product. So they have, for example, the integration between iPhone and whatnot, an iPhone, an iPad, and MacBooks, and their other home products. But the way they do it is like you know exactly what to expect from them. There is nothing uncertain. They do sometimes release products that are a little bit unique. For example, many years ago they released the iPhone 5C, which was in very unique colors and very different to what they were used to in just the black and white. But the product design was still similar. The only difference was just the color. So even though it is a different product line, it is still in a subcategory of an existing product line. And you can see that as well recently with the MacBook Neo, which like it is still within the scope of an existing product. So it's not like a standalone thing, but it's it's a subcategory of a well-established brand or a well-established product line. But even when they do more outlandish things, such as with the Vision Pro that came out a couple of years ago, which is very different to everything they did. The design language behind it and the way they were doing the interface and everything, it was still very clear Apple. There was no uncertainty what kind of brand you're dealing with and what to expect from them, which is something a good brand, in my opinion, does, where it's like you know what to expect from them. And that's why a lot of people come back, where it's like it just works. And you know what to expect. There's no uncertainty. There's nothing crazy coming from it. But you know what to see from them. And one that has been done it badly, in my opinion, was Bud Light. I will preface, it's nothing to do with the message itself. LGBTQ awareness is an important part of everyday life, and that is not what this is about. This is purely based around the idea that um, it was a brand that was heavily advertised to maybe a potentially more conservative audience. Bud Light had built their customer base around American football, the NFL, and they've been doing that for many, many years. And so even when they were the beer sponsor of the NFL, this was the kind of target audience they were always targeting themselves towards, like the American patriot, the people that drive pickup trucks and whatnot. So when they went out of their usual comfort zone and decided to veer towards a more LGBTQ focused audience with their marketing campaign with Bill Mulvaney, this was very alienating topic for them, because they built such a specific brand reputation around a potential more conservative audience, and then deciding to go with something that, in at least in their mind, is seen as a very alienating topic. It is something that is debated a lot on many different platforms, and then doing this when you've already built this very established brand around conservatives and more right leaning, and then you decide to do something so far away from this. It's just misunderstanding your customer base, and it backfired significantly. I believe that Anheuser-Busch, the owner of Bud Light, ended up falling from the number one beer brand in the US. This is a clear example of where an unorganized brand can backfire significantly, because they were losing millions and millions of US dollars in profits, all because of one singular campaign. And it's not something you see very often, but it's something that can backfire a lot if you're misunderstanding. So now, since then, they've then gone back to their old roots with using Shane Gillis as their new spokesperson, and they've seen a rise again. But such a marketing campaign can have a significant backlash, where some people are just gonna keep remembering, it's like, hey, this is a brand that doesn't believe the same way I believe, so therefore I'm not gonna go back to them, even though they may now be changing back to their, what you can assume as being their usual marketing. And one that is doing it very confusingly, in my opinion, is Twitter. It's not specific with the brand, but it's something where, like, other brands are uncertain of it, and even users are uncertain of the platform and what the platform has become. So there's been obviously the change of ownership with Elon Musk buying it, and then the full rebrand from Twitter to X. This massive rebrand and the way it's been run since has created a lot of mistrust and eroding trust, along with the changes in the policy of how the platform itself works. So it means that many users are potentially less likely to use it, and many brands then are also gonna, like, sure, brands may have a platform, but it's not one they're focusing on. Where many other brands, for example, like, are potentially moving to other platforms like TikTok and spending a lot more time and money on TikTok compared to Twitter, because they see that TikTok's platform is a lot more predictable, which is great for business, where it's like, if you know what to expect from platform, you're a lot more likely to use it. Or even Instagram as well, or even Facebook, if you want to go further back. You know what to expect from the platform, so therefore brands and client base are more likely to use a platform when you know what to expect from it. Which is why but the thing itself with Twitter is it is such a complex thing to deal with, that, like, there's so much uncertainty in the platform, and there's a weird way that platform has become, where some people are saying because it's been very monetized in such a weird way, that a lot of people are focusing on the clickbait and rage baiting, or trying to get engagement from people just for the sake of engagement, because this is what now drives monetization to the platform, where it's like the more engagement you get, the more money you're getting out of it. So it's ultimately also changed the platform heavily, of forcing people to use the platform, or like the way they decide to use the platform, and get people to click on their content and interact with their content. And if brands are wanting to do the same, they have to move fast, and they have to move very risky, in a sense where you have to create something that is can be seen as controversial and risky, which is for a lot of brands not something they want to do. They don't want to be on this risky side of business, especially when it comes to, we go back to even just the theory that you want a consistent brand identity. But if you have this one platform where being risky and being controversial is everything, then you're less likely to be used, because it is too risky for the business to do this. So that's why they're less likely to do it. And even if they are doing, they're just posting the basic thing just to keep up with it. But they're not putting any effort or any they're not putting anything into it. They're just doing it for the sake of doing it, and not for the sake of growing the brand further and using the platform itself. But it's just for the sake of it, which is why it's confusing. But it's not good, but it's not bad. It's just somewhere in between. And then to kind of wrap up the whole thing again, is that like regardless of the message yourself that you're conveying, with like Bud Light potentially more towards more conservative audience, or using Appleware refined simplicity, or the product itself, regardless of beer, laptops, phones, makeup, anything, or the platform, or even the cause that you're supporting, if it's LGBTQ awareness, if it's conflict in like Israel and Palestine, if it's, or anything, like if it's whatever it may be, there has to be a good reason why you go into a certain cause. There's very few brands that are able to go well into it. A good brand that is able to go into like all these very unique political causes that can be seen as very alienating is Ben and Jerry's, because they've built this massive brand around doing this very often and spreading awareness about certain causes around the world. But not a lot of brands are doing this, and not a lot of brands can suddenly just go into this sphere. And when they do, it can significantly backfire with that's not what they're used to doing, and that's what they're known for doing. But regardless of the brand or the marketing or anything, it is very important to have a consistent branding. It's very important to be consistent regardless of the way you do it, from the very beginning to the very end, regardless of the platform or the cause or the product or sub brands or sub products that suddenly come out. It's very important that the brand itself has a very consistent and predictable, in a sense, way forward, where it's like you can still go outside of your comfort zone a little bit, but there still has to be some underlying idea of that. You have to somewhat be able to tell what kind of brand it is, regardless of if you change over time, because change is inevitable. But the way you portray your message still has to have some kind of consistency to it. There will still be differences. There will still be like evolutions of marketing. But it is very important that a sense of brand value is still going to be the same, because that's what people fell in love with the beginning, and that's what they want to see when they come back to it. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Please come again.